Social media started as a fun way to put yourself out there and connect with friends online through websites like LiveJournal and MySpace. Today it is so much more. For some people it's a job, for advertisers it's the perfect place to put their products on. Political parties use it to sway elections, and most importantly, it defines culture. From nostalgic sites like Google Plus and MySpace, all the way to current apps like TikTok and Instagram, and even some rising stars from the East. Social media sites are always evolving, so join me as we discuss the most popular ones since 2004. Let's start this off with LiveJournal, a website that was created by a teenager in 1999. In the late 90s and early 2000s, a time where just loading an image on the internet would take you multiple seconds, most websites were either forums or personal blogs. Setting up a blog was a very difficult task though, as you had to host your own website. From there, if anyone wanted to read your posts, they had to find your blog specifically and look up what you posted last. When Brad Fitzpatrick, a guy with a huge interest in the internet and programming, graduated from high school, he tried to find a way to keep in touch with his friends. He knew they weren't going to go through all the trouble of creating and hosting their own websites just so they could post live updates and keep in touch. So he created LiveJournal, a website where anyone could start a blog and add others to their friend lists to always get updates on their latest posts. While it started as a personal website for him and his friends, it quickly grew beyond that, and by 2004 it became the first social media site to reach over 5 million users. The site was especially popular with niche groups like goths, alternative people, and the kind of people who like to write fan fictions about their celebrity crushes. The long formats of posts and the lack of instant messaging made it a very safe place for introverts who just wanted to share stories. As the internet moved away from being a nerdy space and into being the common thing, other social media sites that prioritized actual socializing quickly became a lot more popular. The final nail in the coffin for LiveJournal was that it was sold to a Russian media company called Submedia in 2007. A large part of LiveJournal's user base was LGBTQ people, and once a Russian media company got control, they started hiding and shadow banning entire hashtags and posts relating to them. LiveJournal was also cracking down on sexual content. Through this, they successfully alienated most of their user base. While LiveJournal's user base was stagnating, MySpace and Facebook were exploding in popularity. Before MySpace, at least in most of the Western world, social networks were still a very niche thing that only people who were actively using the internet or were in more nerdy circles would know about. But then, as MySpace released and it became more common for households to have internet access, everything changed. MySpace became popular with the kids. It became a thing that people actively talked about in schools. It even ended up determining social circles and breaking up relationships. And if we look at it a bit deeper, it makes sense why this happened. The MySpace profile pages were basically just a blank slate that users could do anything they want to. Some had fancy GIFs in the background and music playing as soon as you clicked on it. Others went with a more simple approach where they just posted some text on there. It was a way for people to creatively show their individuality to the world. It also had a really popular music player way before Spotify and Apple Music were a thing. But in the end, what got people most hooked onto it was how it gamified social relationships. By 2005, MySpace reached the top spot on this list, and just a year later, in August 2006, it reached over 100 million users. This meant that it had more users than all of its competitors combined. But with this popularity came a lot of problems. Now it wasn't only the teens and young adults on there, it was also their parents. This in turn really turned off the younger crowd. I mean, who wants to discuss their latest crush if their mom could see that? A different problem that arose from its rising popularity was the amount of online scammers and bots that would join the website. For many, MySpace was the first place where they encountered online scams and catfishes. And as if that wasn't enough to make people want to leave the website, the company that bought MySpace in 2005 also constantly increased the amount of ads that were shown. By 2007, MySpace stopped growing altogether, and just a year later, it was overtaken by Facebook.
Do you have a favorite feature to use in here?
Check this out.
Wow.
So that's pretty neat.
This is so freaking cool.
Facebook started in 2004 as an exclusive network for only university students. This exclusivity helped it build up hype around the product. On the one hand, you had MySpace, the website where anyone and their mother could create an account. Everything looked messy and chaotic, and a lot of the people were just straight up obnoxious. On the other hand, you had Facebook, this super clean layout with only educated people that felt like some kind of Ivy League VIP club. In 2006, they went public for anyone, but it was still mostly just used by university students. That same year, they added the newsfeed to Facebook, a singular place where you could see updates from all of your friends. This is when things got serious and most of MySpace users started to migrate. In 2007, Facebook started to get close to MySpace, and then by 2008, it clearly overtook it. Facebook received an especially big boost in 2008 as they were the first social media site to have an app for smartphones. Sure, in 2008, smartphones weren't quite as common as they are today, but it was hard to meet any smartphone user who didn't have the Facebook app installed. With the clean UI, the quick load times, the news feed, but also the good search functions, Facebook just never stopped growing. By late 2008, Facebook reached over 200 million users, but a different newcomer was quickly rising up the ranks. And by 2009, Skype became the first social media site to reach over 300 million users. For those of you rushing to the comments to say that Skype is a messaging app and not a social media app, I've explained my reasoning in the description of this video. Alright, so how did Skype overtake Facebook? Well, it's quite simple. It fulfilled a completely different need. You see, in 2006, Skype introduced video calls for free on their platform. This was the first time that the general public was able to easily access video calling technology. And with this, it became the standard for anyone who had family abroad, worked remotely, or was studying far away from their loved ones. In some countries, especially in Asia, Skype became the normal way of calling each other because it was completely free. At its peak, 1/3 of all international calls were done through Skype. As smartphones became the common cell phones in the early 2010s, a lot of apps competing with Skype directly would release, like WhatsApp in 2009 and FaceTime in 2010. With this added competition, Skype wasn't able to keep its dominance anymore, and by 2010 it lost its top spot on this list. At the same time, a different runner-up was closing its gap with Facebook at a quick rate. And by 2012 it even surpassed Skype as it became the second most popular social media in the world. I'm talking about YouTube.
Happy birthday, YouTube.
Good old 2012 YouTube. Back when Ray William Johnson was the most subscribed YouTuber, PewDiePie was just some guy from Sweden, and Mr. Beast posted his very first video. We're all on YouTube watching this right now, so instead of telling you why people use YouTube, how about we talk about some of their failed competitors? A lot of countries try to create their own YouTube alternatives. For example, there was MyVideo in Germany, there was Dailymotion in France, and RooTube in Russia. The reasons why these failed vary greatly. For example, MyVideo failed because of strict copyright laws in Germany. There are two things they all have in common though. First of all, ever since Google acquired YouTube, their funding was unparalleled and unbeatable by any of their competitors. Hosting videos online is expensive as you need a lot of storage space and engineers to make it work properly. A large company like Google could easily outsource these things or even lose money on them. I mean, their funds are basically endless. This abundant wealth also meant that Google could a lot more easily share a larger portion of their revenue with creators. This led to the second common problem all competitors had. Because with bigger monetary incentives, it just made sense for creators to switch to YouTube. In other words, all of the competitors just didn't have enough people who made good content for viewers to want to come back to them. Instead, they were mostly populated by YouTube re-uploads, random low-quality clips, and pirated movies and anime episodes that were cut up into multiple parts. As websites without video creators don't get viewers and new creators want to go to other websites that have viewers, this created a snowball effect and YouTube kind of naturally became a monopoly. Today, YouTube is the only place where you can reliably find good quality videos by individual creators. Both YouTube and Facebook would remain on top for a very long time. So until that changes, let's discuss one of the social media sites that has been around since the very beginning of this video. A website that released in 2003, even before MySpace. Let's discuss LinkedIn.
Discover how you can grow with the help of your network. LinkedIn.
LinkedIn was a joint venture between the creators of socialnet.com and PayPal. When it launched in 2003, it was mostly meant to be used like a digital Rolodex, something that was purely professional. The only way to get onto the platform was through invitations by other coworkers, and it was mostly used to keep in touch with your colleagues, somewhat like Slack is today. Less than 1 year later, they went public for everyone. But back then, LinkedIn profiles were very minimal as they only stated your name, your position, and the place you work at. By 2006, LinkedIn added the option to show your work history on your public profile. This changed everything, and within just a couple years, LinkedIn became the place we know it as today, a hub for recruitment and job searches. Another thing these public profiles did was that now you could Google someone's name and find out about their work history. This also meant that a lot more traffic was coming in from Google directly. Of course, it's not enough to rival its competitors like Facebook and MySpace, but it still consistently kept up. Today, most LinkedIn accounts never actually posted anything except for when they land a new position or lose their current one. And at the same time, LinkedIn has become the biggest platform for job seekers worldwide. LinkedIn is huge and it's only going to grow, and all of this was because it separated itself from its competitors on the market. It is not just a social media site, it's a professional networking app and a job board. While LinkedIn was slowly climbing up, in 2014 a rising star from the east would take the number 3 spot on this list. This was none other than the Chinese everything app, Wechat. Wechat first released as a digital messaging and photo sharing app, similar to WhatsApp, Viber, and Telegram. By 2012, they also added a social feed feature, where similarly to Facebook or other social media platforms, people could share pictures and posts. But unlike their competitors, they didn't stop there, because less than a year later, they also introduced digital payments. Now Wechat became like a secondary wallet that people could pay at any store with just using QR codes. With the digital wallet also came digital monetary gifts, so now people could send money to their family abroad or in a different city with just a click of a button. The next feature they added was built-in shops, similar to how TikTok Shop works today. Brands could easily put their products up there and it became a full-on e-commerce platform. From purchasing to delivery to payment, everything happened within this one app. In 2017, they even added mini programs and a search engine to Wechat. You get the gist. Wechat is a super app, an app that encompasses everything you might possibly need. From socializing and talking with your friends to becoming an influencer, shopping, getting delivery, sending money, making payments, and everything else. Considering this, it just made sense that the platform was growing like crazy. By 2018, they reached over 1 billion users and thereby comfortably sat as the 4th most popular social media in the world. That being said, a different app was slowly catching up to them. By 2019, Instagram surpassed WeChat.
From Kuchpi fashion to sub Kuch fashion, we are in the making. Instagram.
Instagram started as an app that was trying to make its own place in the social media market. The whole point of the app was that you could only post pictures in a 1x1 format with a short caption, and that worked really well for them. It worked so well, in fact, that in 2012 Facebook acquired them for approximately $1 billion. Ever since then, they haven't brought out a single original feature. Instead, they are well known for copying their competitors. Whenever any new and interesting social media app gains any traction, you can be certain that Instagram will copy the most important feature it provides. Sure, this sounds kind of bad and maybe unethical, but at the same time, Instagram copies these things so well, and having them all in one place really is a game changer. Using this tactic, they were able to consistently grow as a brand. All the while, a different app was slowly inching to the top, an app that was so scary good that Instagram copied every single one of its features. I'm talking about TikTok. In order to understand TikTok, we first need to know about Musical.ly, an app that was dominating the children's market in the West. It was founded in Shanghai in 2014. It was a social media app where children and teens would post lip syncs and dance videos to popular songs. It was an app whose user base almost fully consisted of young teens and children. Well, those and the occasional creep, but let's not talk about them. It started becoming especially popular in the US around 2016, around the same time that Vine peaked as well. Together, these two apps normalized short-form content among children, teenagers, and young adults. And you know that whenever something becomes popular, China does what it does best. They created their own short-form video app called Douyin. The assumption that short-form video is something for children and teenagers didn't quite exist in the East back then, and Douyin was a huge hit in the Chinese market. And so in 2017, as Vine unfortunately was discontinued and Musical.ly now had a monopoly on short-form content, ByteDance, the company behind Douyin, found a huge opportunity for themselves. They acquired Musical.ly for over $1 billion. The next year, they would merge Douyin with Musical.ly to create an app for the Western market called TikTok. At first, TikTok was seen just like Musical.ly in the West, an app for children. But as children who grew up on Vine and Musical.ly matured and grew older, so did the content on TikTok. Now it wasn't just kids dancing and lip syncing anymore. It was memes, it was sketches, it was stories, it was vlogs. A whole category of content that was appealing to more than just Gen Z. This wasn't the only reason why it became popular though. Their biggest strength was an algorithm that would always know what to show you next. Ever since TikTok's huge success during the pandemic, most other apps on this list tried to implement short-form videos to their platform. TikTok wasn't the social media that grew the most during the pandemic though, because a different app soared so high it eventually overtook every single one of its competitors. I'm talking about WhatsApp. Most of Europe, South Asia, some of Southeast Asia, and even lots of South America were using WhatsApp as their default mode of communication, way before the pandemic even started. The app has always been popular ever since it was first created in 2009. As the pandemic hit and people were looking for ways to talk to each other and see each other online, all messaging and video calling apps got a huge boost in popularity. The reason why WhatsApp's user base grew the most compared to its competitors is quite simple. It's because WhatsApp was already established as being the best on the market. And during these tiring years, even people in the US got used to the app. And once you're used to it and see all the benefits it has over regular texting, it's quite obvious why it would continue growing even afterwards. Especially in a time like today, where making international friends is easier than it has ever been. Today, social media is more powerful than it has ever been before. So powerful, in fact, that the corporations behind these apps can easily lobby the government and sometimes have more political power than politicians. At the same time, governments use these platforms to spread propaganda, and political parties do their best to sway public opinions with them. Whenever something has a lot of power and the government can't control it, it leads to censorship and bans. Just like it happened most recently in the US with TikTok. TikTok was the first social media app that wasn't owned by a US ally to blow up as much as it did in the States. With the political power that it holds, it makes sense that the government would try to ban it. While the ban has been undone in a PR stunt with the Trump administration, the company is still forced to sell 50% of their shares to US investors. Or at least that's what they're trying to do. It doesn't seem like it's gonna go through anytime soon. Such bans have already happened in many other parts of the world. Like for example, TikTok is banned in India, Iran, Jordan, Nepal and Afghanistan. But TikTok is not the only app to be banned in many places. Like for example, China has their Great Firewall, where almost none of the Western social media apps get through. In Russia, most Western social media is banned ever since the conflict with Ukraine began. In many Middle Eastern countries, Discord is banned, and many, many more. Social media is not the fun online playground it used to be anymore. And with censorship on the rise worldwide, I wouldn't be surprised to see a major shakeup in the rankings happening when any of the top social media apps are getting banned in the US. Alright, that's it. Have a good one.